So we'll call the meeting to order, and
4, 6, 8,
first item on the agenda is public comment. If there's any yet, there'll be opportunities throughout the presentation also. So, alrighty, given that, we'll roll into correspondence, which is none. On to the minutes of our March 8th meeting. Everybody's got the minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion made second. Any discussion? All in favor of accepting the minutes as prepared? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Minutes accepted. Rolling right into new business, review and discuss the completed shared service report. So, no sense of belaboring this any further. Appreciate everybody coming out. And Jim's prompting, we have a very nice PowerPoint presentation for you. We're going to make everybody read the report, but this will be less painful that you're going to make me do it.
You want to do it?
No. So we've got just a little overview in the slides, and figured as we go through the different areas, if any committee members have something they want to throw in for comments, or any of the folks in the audience have questions or comments, feel free to jump right in. So slide 1 is our nice cover page, and we're going to roll to slide 2, which is a little overview. And the reason we've been getting together on a semi-irregular basis for the last 2.5 years was kind of twofold. One, always looking for ways to find some economies and find a little better way of doing things, more cost effective, that type of stuff. And you overlay that with Public Act 1360, which was a state mandate that the boards of eds were required to evaluate consolidation of non-educational services with the town's general government operations in an effort to find some cost savings if possible. So that was the reason that the committee was formed. We can roll on to slide 3. So it was back in December of 2015, the Board of Selectmen formed our committee, and it had membership being from a Board of Selectmen, which the members were Jim Hayes and John Gilgrove. Dave McNally represented the Board of Finance, and on Board of Ed, Bob Rivensteger and Jim Feeney were the delegates awarded that honor. And along with that, Christine Mahoney, the superintendent, and then Tim and I were kind of the odd men out that don't do as much as the rest of you, so kind of rounded out our committee. So the goal we have, if you roll on to slide 4, is to kind of take a look at the way things are operated and see if there's some opportunities for the boards of education and boards of selectmen to work together to find some ways to maybe do things a little more efficiently, a little more cost effectively, and scout things out. So that was our charge as we headed out the gate. And if you roll into slide number 5, we kind of approached it in a sequential type of attack on it. So the first thing we did was to gather some information from surrounding towns and regional governmental organizations to see what's going on out there in the different towns and different groups with what types of services the schools and towns have been able to band together with and find some ways to do things a little bit better. From the research we found, and that's the intimidating thickness of that report is masked by the fact that the appendices are most of the data that we had gotten from other organizations. So our report is only a dozen pages or so, but the back of that whole report is all the appendices. But basically, there was a finite number of tasks that we found where there was cooperation between the two entities. Facilities and grounds management and maintenance were one of the more prevalent, sharing of IT services, business office for the financing, accounting, payroll, accounts payable, that type of stuff. That was another common theme, purchasing and human resources. So kind of getting an idea of what's taking place around us, we took the next step to see what we're currently doing. So, page 6 shows us the next step was outline the areas where our boards of ed and selectmen are currently collaborating. And after we did that, we started to try to take a list of areas where, you know, we're not currently collaborating, but maybe there's some benefit to do so, and tried to take a little bit of a look at that. And that's really the, you know, the crux of what we did was basically tee up a few items to pass back on to you guys as the elected boards, finance, selectmen, education, to see if some of these other ideas are anything worth pursuing, and if so, how, you know, what the actual cost savings or efficiency benefits or enhanced services that, you know, we could provide might be from that. And then if you roll on the page to slide 7, it's kind of an outline of when we were looking at these different things, figured, well, you need some kind of a guide to look back on and see if it's, you know, if there is some benefits. So some of the criteria that we're looking at is, you know, would the change meet the needs of the towns and schools in a timely, efficient, and effective manner? Because you could probably combine things and do a worse job, so no sense of doing that. You know, will there be cost savings and greater efficiencies? You know, will the change be simple to administer with a clear understanding of who does what, where, and when? It kind of falls back to responsibility. There's got to be, you know, a party who has the responsibility and take the credit when it works and the blame when it doesn't. And the other thing that we thought of too is that a lot of times interaction can be on a personal level, and seeing how this is more of a board-to-board type of deal, that as the personalities evolve over time, that whatever structures get modified, that it should be something that's going to be easy to sustain itself through the inevitable rollover of the personalities involved. So that pretty much covered the methodology part of it. So slide 8 rolls into outlining kind of the areas where we currently collaborate. And I think the facilities maintenance management is certainly one of the areas that the town has been working on for a number of years, and fairly successfully too. I think by the looks of things around here. But so the way it's structured now is the Board of Selectmen funds the building maintenance supervisor. DPW has evolved into maintaining all the grounds at the town and school buildings, including the athletic fields. And then the relationship between the schools and the youth services, Park Rec, library, public safety departments. The feedback that we got, there's a good working relationship between all those entities. Coming back from the Board of Ed side is the facilities are made available for the town, you know, basically the sports type of stuff with the gymnasium and the athletic fields and the auditorium and that type of stuff, so the community gets the use of the facilities during the non-school hours. And in terms of something where the two work jointly together, one of the more current areas where there's been some collaboration is banding together for the electricity reverse auction. So the more usage you come to that with, ideally the better rate you get. So the town had been party to that and worked this way to where they coordinate with the schools' efforts to their purchasing, to where they went together. And that's happened already, right?
It's coming up.
It's coming up. So. Alrighty, so I don't know, does anybody got anything you want to jump in with yet?
Great job.
Jim?
Hi, Rick. Jim Franklin, Heather Lane. Can you tell me the ways in which the school and the town libraries collaborate?
I think this, yeah, Christine, you can probably address that.
Sure. We Elementary schools work closely with the town librarian. We do take our elementary students over to the library for field trips, and they spend some time with the town librarian. There's also some summer reading that takes place over there. We have teachers who come in during the summer and do some reading for our children during the summertime. The other thing that we do is each school does have a summer reading program where the students are required to read a number of books. We do have the opportunity to send our reading lists over to the town library, and the town librarian works with us to ensure that the reading materials that we're looking for will be available to the students. We do also, if we have committees or meetings where we feel it is important to have the town librarian present or represented, we make sure that happens as well.
Thank you.
And also that the town librarians are fully aware of all the programs that are offered through the school so the kids can do their homework after school, because we always have the bus stop here for the middle school, high school kids, so they can get off and go there, and they're fully aware of what the programs are and how to help too. So there's that coordination there all the time for kids that are latchkey kids and kids that don't have a computer at home and things like that, so they can do a lot of the work here.
Thanks, Stacey.
I have a question. In the chart that's being presented, when it says that Board of Education has control over their athletic fields, I'm not following what you're trying to say here, because if it's used for non-education programs, does that mean, people from the town are also, I thought the whole purpose of shared services was for things that made sense for building maintenance, for example, under Board of Selectmen, for that to be picked up so that athletic fields could be maintained by the town and not by the Board of Ed.
Right, which they are.
They are?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm not following what this
Well, just the
slide
school
shows.
facilities are made available to the community during non-school hours for the activities is the thrust of that one.
Okay, so basically it's just showing the interaction between the two. Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Alrighty, so then if we roll on to slide number 9, another thing as we were looking through the different tasks was ones that didn't make sense. And years ago, the DPW used to actually plow the schoolyards, and quite a few years ago, that stopped and the school contracted that out. There was conflict between the DPW guys having time to get the roads open in the morning and getting the schools ready for the start of school. And so we took a little look at that to see whether anything might have changed on that. And I think the consensus was that the way it operates now is pretty efficient, probably as efficient as it's going to get. And that wasn't something worth taking a look back. The DPW does salt the schoolyards, but they don't do the snow removal. So it's nice to see there's only one item we saw that didn't make sense to do something together. So rolling into slide number 10. As with anything, it's it's easier to find excuses why we don't do something than why we do them. So we're kind of taking a look at what some of the impediments might be to changing the way things are done now and finding more cooperation between the different entities. Kind of broke it down. You probably got more than 2 classifications, but if you break it down simply into 2 classifications, you got the one that's kind of attitudinal, where closed-minded, this is the way I do it, this is the way I want to do it, don't bother with any thoughts of change. And sometimes, as we've seen over the history of the town, sometimes the personalities don't get along, and so if personalities don't get along, it makes it a lot harder to work together. Fortunately, I think that category of impediment is not something that we're dealing with in today's environment here in town. So you really move on to the more structural, institutional type of things where you've got things like mandates and statutes that the different entities have to work under, and so as you look to maybe change the way you do things, you might have to work around or be cognizant of what some of the requirements are and make sure you don't come afoul of that. Budgeting process is a touchy subject, as tasks can be either passed back and forth or combined. It's finding the right dollar amount entity that needs to stay with that. And again, it's through the budgeting process, and one of the key items that we've had discussion about is general government side. Statutorily can have a contingency in their budget where the Board of Ed can't. So being able to give up some of the more flexible lines, can be difficult, pose some difficulties for the education side of things. So it's just, another part of, working out the details when there is an idea that might make sense to look at changing the way we operate. As well as labor contracts, if you got employees in different unions and you look to meld the different groups of the similar tasks into one group, it's another thing you just have to be cognizant of and work through. And something as simple as insurance renewal dates. So, there are different items. We roll into number 11. I think we're out of the challenges, so the challenges probably could use more than one slide, but hopefully with the personalities at the tables now that will be a minimal part of any of it. So then the big thing is when we got going through the list, which things might make sense for you guys as the elected boards to take a look at and see if there is any benefits to investigating and implementing any of these. And as far as the facilities management and maintenance, that now the Board of Selectmen side takes care of basically the grounds, the fields and lawns and that kind of stuff. And the question was, would there be any benefit to extending that into the buildings, whether it be the outside of the buildings, the shell type of thing, or the interiors? So looking through the data that we got from some of the towns, there are some towns where they have general government side of the business house takes care of the facilities interiorly and exterior of the schools as well as the town's house. So, something that may have some benefit for you guys to take a look at and see what would be involved there, if there are, benefits to be gleaned from it or not. Another area is the business offices, and that's been a topic on the auditor's report for years. Small town with small staff, and the two sides, there's not a lot of coverage if somebody's out, so it's always been a discussion, is there some benefit to maybe bringing those school and town business services together, so you have a little more cross-training and overlap and that type of stuff. And Canton just went through it, so part of the appendix is a little bit of report about what Canton did. So that was one of the items that the committee felt should be something sooner rather than later that you guys be made aware of and decide if it's worth pursuing. And again, on the IT side of things, the Board of Ed, with its expertise and resources, the question on that is there some benefit that could be brought across to the general government side of things, which currently contracts that service out. So that, again, might be an area worth exploring. So that's slide 11. We'll roll into slide 12. And it kind of rolls in with the insurance. The Board of Ed and general government looked years back about doing some combining purchasing on the health insurance front. And from my understanding, the risk pool would move up if they did that to where there would not be any cost savings and probably actually higher costs. So that was looked at, didn't happen. But a year or two ago, I guess the general government side of things moved to the state program when the legislature enacted that ability there. And so question was, and maybe it's something that the Board of Ed could take a look at too, because it was pretty significant savings when the general government side rolled into that program. And the other thing we looked at was purchasing power, and, you know, currently there is a lot of uniformity in supplies and that type of stuff, given that the facilities maintenance guy oversees both. And also with some of the vendors in mechanical, plumbing, electrical, that type of stuff, there's some commonality there too. And the question was, is there any potential to kind of leverage the purchasing power to get better pricing, that type of stuff? And again, I don't know that we're big enough, even as combined, to yield the big hammer on that, but it's, again, it's something to keep in mind and people look at. So those were pretty much the items that floated to the top as we went through our investigation. If you roll into slide 13, our closing observations. So basically, the sharing of services can kind of show itself in many different ways. You know, one where, like we do now with the DPW and the lawns and fields, where, you know, Board of Selectmen take care of the service for the school facilities, which basically was utilizing the underutilized capacity of the DPW. And the joint procurement efforts, which is the other point I made there, and that's being done with janitorial products and that type of stuff at this point now. So rolling into slide 14, continues on, you know, the next steps. It really dumps back and your lapses the elected boards to take a look and see if any of these items that are identified make sense to carry forward, and, you know, you guys just develop a plan to evaluate them, timeline to evaluate it, move on if it does, or move off if it doesn't, and basically see what can come out. I hope you don't take the 2.5 years that we took to get here, but hopefully in the end we'll give something forward, path forward. And then the last slide, number 15, probably one of the bigger points to make at the end, because this whole effort didn't start with us, and it's not going to end with whatever you guys do. It's pretty much a vigilant effort on everybody who's involved, just to constantly keep an eye out, try to find ways to do things better and more efficiently. And one of the thoughts was that maybe just like there's an annual calendar for capital planning and operating budget planning, that maybe there's some kind of scheduled meeting to take a hard look at, you know, how things are going, and what ideas might have come up since the last time that are worth taking a look at, and see whether there can be some benefits by working together. So, ironically, we, I think, halfway through our time here, said, oh, well, I think first selectman and the superintendent will get together and hash stuff out, and it's the type of thing where I'm sure they got together all the time, but it was part of something else that they were getting together for. And if it's a specific item on the agenda, and maybe the only item on the agenda, then it could either be a short meeting or a productive meeting. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of what we've been hammering around on. Dave?
I just wanted to clarify one thing, since I was the one getting the information about combining the businesses. You shared that it was Canton. Canton was the latest one to get together, but also there were two similar towns, East Hampton and East Hadley, sorry, got clean glasses, that did it a year or 2 years before that. So we have three similar towns, similar size, basically. Well, kind of, you know, well, I don't think we'll ever get to the size that we are, but similar types of things. So I just want to let you know that it was not just Canton doing it. There's some history there of some other towns.
Just to follow up what Dave was saying, so each one of those categories that you just went down, is there a reference in this big Bible here of each one of those examples?
Yes.
Like to dig down further into it?
Yep.
So that we can read it and see what they did?
Yep.
Okay,
So
good.
we've gotten data from a bunch of surrounding towns on what they were doing, and Dave had a nice presentation there.
Okay.
Actually, it was Cabe or Craig did a study
Yeah,
for
Craig.
Canton on the combination of the school and the town business functions.
Excellent.
But that's not part of this packet.
Yes,
Yes, it is.
Oh, the
Yes,
study,
it
the
is.
correct study?
Correct is in it.
Okay.
That's why I was asking,
And also
because
the
each one.
contact person who I talked to in Canton,
Okay.
who's an East Granby, a former East Granby resident who helped me through this, so.
Good, good.
All right, so in the summary, is there a recommendation? You're going to keep us in suspense?
You've heard it all.
All
I
right.
think they just given a high-level presentation, and it's up to the boards to decide what areas of collaboration.
Well,
So they're not going to get in the weeds.
I'm just-
One of the things that I plan on doing is, in the beginning of next week, is to send a letter to the superintendent and to the Board of Ed chair, and to set up a common meeting with the Board of Selectmen and with the Board of Education, and let's start to go through the report. Let's go and look to see what it is that we think we can do. What expertise do we need? Do we need a correct study for the back room, the businesses, the back end, the business office? Are there other things that, it's easy to say, hey, it might make sense to have the town take over the insides and the outsides of the schools, but how should that look like? Maybe we need some guidance on that. So that's where the Board of Finance comes in also, because there might be some requests that collectively we may be going. But I'm committed to having something tangible that we can show in our upcoming budgets for 2019-20, which would mean that we'd have to have most of the work, if not all of it, done by December of this year. So I want an accelerated time frame, and I'm going to work with the Board of Education, Board of Selectmen. We'll work with the Board of Education so we can start to take some action on this, and then we'll report to the Board of Finance some of that as we go forward. But we have an opportunity here, and we need to strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, your recommendation for the Board of Finance to maybe set a meeting aside to evaluate some of that stuff too. So that may be a good idea also.
Right, but it's a better idea not to waste time and have the Board of Selectmen with the Board of Education, because that's the whole point, to merge the government and the education functions where it makes fiscal sense and where it's also feasible. So,
Yeah, first of all, Dave Kilbon, Chair of the Board of Finance. And I would say that the Board of Finance would be happy to play sort of an oversight role in the context of asking for regular reports at our meetings from the Board of Education and from the general government side relative to what's been happening here. I also wanted to thank the members of the committee, because I think this has been, I had forgotten that you actually started in December of 2015. So,
Well, we were christened, we didn't really start until after that.
so
But the Board of
the
Selectmen.
bottle was smashed across the front of something. And, yeah, you got, but
We went over to JG's.
oh yeah, that was where the bottle was from. So,
Right, yes.
but you know, I really appreciate the effort you all have put in. I think this is a very good starting point. Just an observation here that I think while we talk about cost savings and so forth, I think we may be putting the cart before the horse in some ways in that context, because I think we first look for increased efficiency, perhaps more professionalism in accomplishing a task, And from that, in the longer term, we may realize cost savings or cost avoidance or reduction in an increase, as opposed to expecting that on day one, we're going to see a tremendous reduction in cost for some of these efforts. But I think our goal really would be looking more toward, or my goal would be looking more toward increased efficiency, perhaps greater professionalism in accomplishing the task, or maybe being able to accomplish tasks that we are not able to accomplish severally today that we might be able to do together. I think I'm heartened to hear Jim's comment about trying to bring things together, because obviously this is an advisory committee at this point, and there's not any follow-up detailed in your report. But I think it's critically important to have that follow-up, to have concrete steps laid out so that we can move forward. And as I said, the Board of Finance can play an oversight role. Given that we're not a policy board, however, we are not in the driver's seat on this, but we will, I think, be asking for feedback on a regular basis from both of the operating boards. Just one specific comment at this point. I think sooner than we may have expected, we seem to be presented with an opportunity in the business office to take a very close look at exactly what is possible for combining, if there's any possibility of combining at this point, because we're clearly losing a critical staff member in that position on the Board of Education side. And I think this presents us with a golden opportunity to look more concretely at that whole arrangement in terms of the business office, to see whether or not there's an opportunity to merge functions in there before we go ahead and bring on someone full-time, basically fulfilling a like position. I mean, that may ultimately be the final best answer, but I think this gives us a chance to look at that seriously to determine whether or not that is the best answer, whether there's some advantages to merging or combining some of the business office functions between the town and the Board of Education. So I would strongly recommend that that be one of the areas we look at first before we go ahead and fill that position. So.
Was in combining these Board of Education / Board of Selectmen tasks and duties, do you have any success stories or potential pitfalls that other communities have shared with you guys that we could avoid? Because several towns have actually done this. And are there any success stories or pitfalls that we can avoid in attempting to combine some of these services?
Enfield is a much bigger community than us, but Enfield for many years has had the general government side and the Board of Education side, where they have merged the upkeep of the plant and everything, and they've been successful at it. I had a chance to talk with Jonathan Blythe, who is in charge of it up there, and we got some ideas from them. Canton thinks it's got a success story with the business offices, and they've started the implementation process of that.
And like I said, those other two towns have been up and running for the past number of years. They were one of the first ones to do it with the correct report, and then correct working it out, and then doing it, combining it together. There are 9,000 and an 8,000 population.
And we do more right currently than some towns and less than other towns, but I mean, with the town pretty much in charge of everything outside of the buildings, whether it's a town building or a school building, you know, we do have that in place. So that's a little success story for East Granby. But to answer your question directly, there are some examples that we mentioned of success. Pitfalls is inaction, in my opinion. The pitfall that we have to worry about is not taking action going forward. So I'm committed to helping to drive that.
Have you experienced have you know of any towns that have attempted this and have failed miserably at it?
No, I don't. They may be out there, Jim, but I don't know that. And what we did do is we tried to reach out to towns that were doing well.
Yeah, sure. Right.
And, we got help from CRAC, we got help from the Connecticut Council of Municipalities, and all of the towns in the Farmington Valley. I sent out a survey and they helped us too. So
Great.
we've got a lot of feedback.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, the appendix is filled with
Okay.
the data.
Now, don't call me up at 3 in the morning with a question. After you're reading that.
That was my plan.
Bob Paskowitz. Jim, I don't know if you're saving any money, but certainly the facilities, the schools, the grounds, the trees look much, much better since the town has gotten active the last few years and done working there. I hope you may be saving money, but it certainly looks more efficient.
Well, I
it's better.
Thank you for that. And one of the things, I think is going to Dave's point, sometimes you get more efficiencies. You may not save money, but you're more efficiency. And I think that's a good example right now.
I know before, when it was, a lot of things were contracted to a company outside of town, they would do what they had to do, and they did a good job at it. My experience is with the DPW guys, they'll do what they need to do to get the job done right and helpful and make it look good, because they're taking pride in their community, and I think that's helpful.
Accountability is the key, is the difference there. Our folks, feel pride in the town and in ownership, and also you're held accountable by the Director of Public Works to make sure we're providing the services that we need at the best efficiency that we can. And as you drive around town and you haven't seen anything yet, in the next couple of months you'll see some additional things that the DPW is doing, ranging from a small little thing like building we've got 79 students that have signed up for flag football. And so we're building a field down at Granby Park for flag football. So, there's little things like that we can react to quickly that if it was a contractor, would not be as quickly to react. Thank you.
And Jim, just to share with you, the Canton issue of combining the business offices, the devils are in the details, and in order to make it work, it was a tremendous amount of work in order to get it to this point, and you're talking at least a year to work out all the details. And they just got up and running when I was able to get it here in, I believe in March, when I was talking, they were just getting it going then. So, a tremendous amount of work.
Great. I also like to echo Bob's comments about the Department of Public, the DPW. Driving around during snowstorms, East Granby is the best town, and I'd like to congratulate your grounds crew of the street crew. They're right on top of it. You drive through other towns, vastly different. They can't compare to us, and thank you for the services there. Well done.
Thank you. I'll pass that on, and we're small but mighty.
I wanted to bring up one other point. A few years ago, in 2014, there was a capital advisory committee, and they also made a recommendation that's similar to one of the recommendations that we made here. That was that the schools be maintained in a landlord-tenant type relationship. So this is not just the first committee that's come up with that. This came out in 2014 and nothing was really done about it, so I hope that we don't drop the ball and let it go again. So.
I don't want to dissuade people thinking that there's significant cost reductions here. In my opinion, there isn't. There are opportunities for greater efficiency, but if people are looking for big ticket items, that's going to free up lots and lots of money. I don't believe personally that they're in any of the items that we mentioned. Sure, as Dave mentioned, there may be greater efficiency, there may be great professionalism, but I don't believe we're going to see what we used to call a big ticket item that would bring out significant savings.
Alrighty, well, that's it, and we'll roll on to the rest of our agenda, and appreciate everybody coming out. So that
Want a
leaves us.
motion to adjourn?
Because they have they have other
Need a
business to
second for
discuss,
that? I
right?
believe we do.
Okay.
That's it.
Need a second for
Dave.
that?
Can I just inquire, before you move on to your, when you indicated that, okay, May 1st is next week, and you want to start scheduling meetings, I mean, do you have some dates in mind?
No, what I'll do is I'll lay that out, I'll look at some suggested dates, and I'll lay that out. We're going into the summer, I understand that, but we got to find some common ground. We can't let the next fiscal year go by without at least implementing some of these things.
Okay.
So I'll lay out some specifics to my letter to the Board of Education.
Okay, appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, so there's a motion made to adjourn. Was there a second?
Yes.
Second, all in favor? Opposed?
They have-
Done, thanks.